While searching for information, do you keep finding lawyers who are just selling their services instead of answering your questions? With 24 years of experience, I am familiar with the frustrations you may have while making an insurance claim through an auto insurance company after an injury. I do my best to actually answer your questions in these videos and in my free book. I am Arizona native and attorney Kevin Fine, and in this video I answer your questions about how a bike helmet is designed to prevent certain injuries and why it may not prevent yours. As a triathlete, an acquaintance of mine was recently injured in a cycling incident. Her most serious injury seemed to be a traumatic brain injury. She sustained this injury even though she was wearing a helmet. The crash was not at a high speed, and the impact to her helmet was with the ground. An injury under these circumstances, plus the fact that the plastic shell of her helmet apparently cracked pretty good on the impact, prompted me to look into what we know about bike helmets and how or if they protect a cyclist from injury. I was surprised to find, even among qualified experts, a significant difference of opinion as to whether wearing a bike helmet is even a good idea. The basic argument for the use of the bike helmets is that the studies show a decrease of injuries and death among cyclists who wear a helmet when compared to cyclists who were not. The basic argument against helmet use is that the helmets were not the reason the cyclists in the statistical studies survived the crash or were less injured, that the cyclist would have survived or avoided head injury even without the helmet, and the riders that died without helmets would have died even with a helmet. In addition, the opponents claim that the use of helmets increased the risk of accidents and caused additional injuries themselves. After trying to interpret these studies and mostly succeeding, I think that the pro-helmet camp has the better evidence. They assert that wearing a helmet decreases the chances of death or serious head injuries following a cycling accident by 66 to 85%. Even if these percentages are wrong to some degree, it still looks like strapping on the helmet makes sense. The debate reminds me of the statistics on car airbags. As a personal injury lawyer, I can confirm what the numbers show on airbag safety. They cause more injuries than they prevent. The catch is that the injuries they prevent are often life-threatening. In other words, the airbag kept someone alive who would have died. So our society deems the trade-off justified. Bike helmets seem a good idea for the same reasons. Even if there is some evidence that certain injuries would not have happened if the cyclist was helmetless, the injuries the helmet prevents constitute a net gain. So how does a bike helmet decrease the chance of a head injury? I will leave out some of the technical explanation of the information I read on bike helmets, but here are some of the highlights. Bicycle helmets are designed to decrease the gravitational force to the head to a level below 300 Gs, units of gravitational force, upon impact, when the cyclist hits the opposing force at a speed of 14 miles per hour. The reason the magic number is 300 Gs under US safety standards is that the average skull can take 500 Gs before fracturing. I don't want to know how they tested that one. The reason the impact speed is 14 miles per hour is that cyclists are more often hitting the ground with their head rather than another object. The speed at which a cyclist hits the ground is not as much affected by the speed at which she was traveling or what she may have hit, but rather by the distance from the ground to where she left the bike and her speed of travel through the air before she lands. In multiple tests, the speed at which a cyclist hits the ground was at or under 10 miles per hour. The helmet decreases the amount of gravitational force transferred to the head through the use of the shell, the outer plastic part, and the polystyrene layer between the shell and the head, the styrofoam-looking stuff. It is really the polystyrene that is offering the protection. If, for example, the helmet breaks its outer shell, as the case with my friend, the helmet still probably did its job if the polystyrene compressed. This material will not fully rebound after impact, so it can be visually checked. If the helmet took a good hit, but the polystyrene did not compress, it probably did little to protect the cyclist. If the impact is with anything that causes the speed of impact to be greater than 14 miles per hour, then the helmet may be overwhelmed because the speed will change the G-force coming through the helmet. Under circumstances when the cyclist is impacting with something other than the ground, and consequently exceeding the 10 miles per hour standard, or 300 G standard, the cyclist is probably running right into something, like a truck, tree, barrier, etc. And lots of other bad things are going to happen besides just the impact with the helmet or brain. So the helmet is not going to save that cyclist. Yes, this all means that the main thing a bike helmet is designed to do is to protect the cyclist from a head injury she may have sustained from falling off her bike and hitting the ground, regardless of what caused the cyclist to leave her bike. But statistically, that is the most likely scenario. So a helmet can clearly offer some protection under some circumstances. But it is a fact that a cyclist can crash, hit her head, have the helmet work perfectly, and she can still sustain a traumatic brain injury. Again, taking the medical terminology out of the explanation, it doesn't take nearly 300 Gs of force to create an impact between the brain and the inside of the skull. In fact, that impact can happen with changes in direction of the head without any impact of the head to an outside object, because think about it, what causes an injury to the brain is actually an impact with the skull surrounding it, not with the ground, car, tree, barrier, etc., except if the skull does open up. Consequently, the brain injuries, including those resulting in long-term cognitive losses, can happen in many kinds of accidents, not just severe impacts with the head, with an opposing force. All activity carries some risk. Life itself is a dangerous activity. Seat belts, airbags, bike helmets are not perfect solutions to some of those dangers, but they are significantly better than nothing. I answer more of your questions in my other videos, articles on my firm's website, and in my free book. Because your situation will be different in significant ways, the general information I presented here may not be right for you or your matter, and is not legal advice. If you wish to talk to me more about your concerns specifically, I do offer a free consultation. You can set up that visit, or you can order the free book through the contact information on the banner below. Thank you.